Hey, so today we're looking at content auditing and planning from an SEO perspective. So it can be quite complicated when you're first starting out with the site, especially if it is thin on content, because different tools might tell you different things, and it can be quite difficult to know where to start. So I think it helps to have a sort of checklist in place. So something like this, we can start to look at opportunities for content that already exists on your site, and then how we can start to look at content planning, but broader than necessarily from an SEO perspective. So there's obviously the SEO elements, but there could be things that you just might not be thinking about from a customer perspective, and the type of things they might be expecting to see from a sort of niche authority in your space. So what I've done is put together some bullet points here, and we can start to look at opportunities, sort of auditing the content that you do have, and then what are those opportunities and how can you use tools and data to sort of inform them. So I think the first one to look at, definitely for e-commerce sites especially, is thin content and opportunities to expand content on pages that you already have. So something like this, a really quick check. You can go to Ahrefs. I've just chosen a random e-commerce site here. Go to Ahrefs, go to top pages. We can start to look at top performing pages here. We can see it's already ranking quite well anyway. A lot of these, they do fairly decent. But when we click into them, you can see there's not really a ton of content. You've obviously got product level listings and product content there. You've got your primary heading, breadcrumb, sort of subcategories here, but there's no supporting content at this level. There's nothing below that initial H1, and there's nothing else below here that we can sort of add, sort of bolster the page from an SEO perspective. So that's always quite a nice quick win, and you can start to look at Search Console data to inform the content for those pages. So you're not necessarily just taking it from what a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush has to tell you, which they are helpful. But if you've got Search Console to sort of really dig into a certain URL, and we can start to see the things that are popping up with high impressions and low clicks, so we can start to see the queries that Google are essentially wanting to show us for, but there's just no content on the page. So it's picking up in impressions, but we could be more effectively ranking for those queries. And we can see that they already relate to that URL, just getting picked up in impressions. So that's a really nice initial start, because you already have those pages, especially if you can see if they're already working, because then it's just even more justification to keep on top of optimizing them. The second one is low traffic content. I like to look at this through Screaming Frog, so we can use the Search Console API. Just chosen a random local SEO site on this one, just a random test site of mine. But for example here, if we wanted to look at from a local SEO perspective, how can we start to justify going back and sort of updating content that we've had for quite a while? More naturally, one of the ways is that we can start to look at it by clicks or by impressions data. So we can see here it's largely at the sort of service category level or local category level, and that's a really nice way of approaching it, because you're not just using what a tool sort of estimates you should be going after or you should be updating. You can literally see the data there, and it's connected to your Search Console profile, so it's sort of as black and white as you need of a justification to go in and start optimizing the pages that you already have there. This third point is something that I don't see many site owners considering, and I suppose with link building and sort of outreach in general, it's hard to sort of put a number on trying to justify time spent on something that might get links in the future. But I think it does help to sort of look at, one, when you come in to do long-term content planning, are there any pieces or are there any clusters that you can start to go after that are not only contextual for you to be targeting in the first place, so you potentially already could be planning to write something around a certain theme or topic, but also if there's clearly that passive outreach element, that passive link building element over time, that can then further justify having that piece of content in your upcoming schedule. So something like this, what I like to do is, rather than necessarily doing a link intersect or looking at, let's say if we had an e-commerce site looking at other e-com sites, and we can do that as well, but this is quite interesting looking at a broader blog. So let's say we had a menswear e-commerce site, we can look at menswear blogs and see the type of things that they're putting out there that are getting links over time. And I can't really imagine there was much manual outreach done for these pieces. Okay, some of them are quite old, so to me that's sort of saying they've been ranking for a while. They're just sort of picking up links here and there, just just because of the authority and the fact that they've ranked for so long. So something like this, we can start to pull out themes. We've got history behind certain fashion items. We've got ones around sort of style icons and how to dress like celebrities, different interviews and things like that. For example, here, like real history, you got a link from Huffington Post there. So, you can start to look at opportunities around a certain, if we said we're going to do a history series on a certain piece of clothing or something that we sell, it then very naturally opens up internal link opportunities for that piece of content. But, we know there's a chance then that there could be that passive link element to it as well. So the next one is cannibalization. So this is quite important, especially if you've got an e-commerce site and you have multiple products targeting the same keyword, or even multiple categories targeting the same keyword. So again, I've just chosen a random site here, but you can start to see how this can quickly be an issue. So you've got these two pages here. You got ones that are targeting more local keywords and one that are targeting more national. So it's not always a case of every time in Ahrefs, if it says there's multiple URLs targeting a keyword, that it's going to be 100% correct. But this is a really good way of starting to look at if there is cannibalization issues. You can see it quite clearly here. So all I've done here is gone into organic keywords and just show me multiple URLs that are ranking for the same or similar keywords. And you can start to look at issues around that. So like I say, it could be contextual. There could be ones that the search results are actually showing different results based on slight keyword differences, or it might be true cannibalization. You've just got complete duplication at the product level or at the category level, and you can see one page taking off more than another in Search Console. So if you start to see that one category or one product is suffering because of it, then it's quite a easy justification then to either redirect that page, or just combine resources that are, suffering from keyword cannibalization at that point. But it's important to not just go off what a tool tells you. You should always cross-reference that with your internal analytics, Search Console data, things like that as well. The next one here is SERP shift. So especially over the last few years with the helpful content updates, and you can see this visualized really well in a tool like Ahrefs. So let's say something here like best guitar for beginners. So we would just assume that something like this would be articles and blogs that are showing for this sort of thing. But we can start to see how has this changed over time and how does this need to inform our content approach. So I've sorted it by the last 2 years, and we start to see here, you've got already a blend of blogs and e-commerce sites. And then you can quickly start to see when the helpful content updates were hitting, and we'll see Reddit start to appear. There we go. And then we go to the most recent day and Reddit is number one, because of course it is. But here, we've got quite a clear mix. You've got this bottom one, Gear for Music, is an e-commerce site. And then you've got what is mostly guitar blogs. So actually for this now, it is what we would assume that would be ranking. Let's just take Reddit out of it because Reddit just ranks for everything these days. But it is largely blogs or sort of authority guitar sites. But it really helps to check this because you can't just assume that that's the case. You see in time and time again, e-commerce sites ranking for best of something because ultimately they're experts in that product, they stock the product, and they are starting to get favored. And you're seeing affiliate sites and, sort of authority news sites getting pushed down, or you're just seeing Reddit and Quora outranking these really decent sites. So just visually, it helps to see not only how have things changed over time, but what's showing now in terms of a format of a site. So if it's like UGC, or if it's a blog, or if it's an e-commerce site, and use that to justify the type of page that you need to be creating on a per cluster basis, really. And this also ties into search intent as well. So, if you're creating category pages for something that a user would be expecting to see a blog, or the other way around, they're actually looking to transact for a certain keyword, but you're creating articles that they're just not going to sit there and read. So again, in the same way that we're looking at how the search results shift over time, we also want to make sure that really the most important thing, the content that you're putting out aligns with what your target audience are expecting to see. Because ultimately, if it isn't, then it's, you can argue that it's going to affect sort of bounce rates and even click-throughs from the outset, because they're just going to scroll until they see something that sort of matches what they're expecting to see within the search results. So you can bypass that by looking at how have the search results shifted and what is the search intent in terms of what is my target audience expecting to see for this type of search. And then finally, we've got competition keyword gaps. So this is always a really handy one. And again, we can use a tool like Ahrefs for this. So I've just used my site with who Ahrefs has put as my sort of closest organic competition. We can obviously manually amend that if we wanted to look more local or national. But let's say I wanted to really start to build out content around link building, and I can start to see what am I missing specifically that mentions backlinks, and what's working for competition. So Link Assistant here doing really well with their free website backlink checker. So, again, really clear justification there that could be something that I could start to target, or I could build a page out around link packages if that was something that I wanted to start pushing. So it helps that rather than just putting the competition keyword gap data in there, filtering by lowest difficulty or highest volume and working through that, start to look at your Search Console data over time and cluster the data to say, okay, in terms of the sort of commercial content that I'm putting out there, what's actually bringing me the most clicks, what's giving me the highest number of impressions, and what's actually driving leads to the site. And then you can start to filter out the competition keyword gap data, because you've got that justification from the internal search data from your Search Console. You're not just basing it purely on what an external tool has to tell you. And it all goes back to that sort of context, what you should be writing about, and ultimately, the most important bit, what are your target audience expecting to see from your site? Because that's what's going to lead to a click at the end of the day. So I hope this helped. I think I might put some sort of checklist together on this, so I can always update the description on that. But I think for now, these are the main points that I'd look at when it comes to sort of having a look at what the immediate opportunities are from a content perspective for your site, but also the type of things to keep in mind when it comes to actually planning out the content for your site, especially if you're putting together a more long-term content plan. If you haven't already, make sure to sign up to the All About SEO newsletter, and when you do, you'll get an email with a link to this free SEO resources hub. So I'll be building this out over time. So if you like these types of guides and sort of how-tos, then I can make actual guides to sit within the resources hub as well. Any questions, drop me a comment, and if I don't hear from you, see you in the next video.